Presented by Listen Headlines, latest world news from trusted sources. Updating daily at 6 a.m. New York.
WorldCBSNews.com.
March 16, 5:22 America, New York. Court quashes teens' legal bid for protection against climate change. An Australian appeals court overturned a ruling that said the Environment Minister had a duty to protect young people from the impact of global warming.
New York Times World News.
March 16, 5 o'clock America, New York. Mass graves identified in Syria could hold evidence of war crimes. 2 sites have been located, believed to hold thousands of bodies of Syrians killed in detention centers administered by President Bashar al-Assad's government during the civil war.
New York Times World News. March 16, 5 o'clock America, New York. Citing a Chevron tanker, Ukraine seeks tougher restrictions at Russian ports. A top Ukrainian official criticized companies in the United States and Greece for helping Russia continue to profit from oil despite its attack on Ukraine. The Novorossiysk oil terminal on the Black Sea in 2018.
Mirror World News.
March 16, 4:55 America, New York. Sobbing Russian soldiers slam Putin for killing children in Ukraine invasion. The 3 soldiers are believed to have been shot down from Ukrainian airspace last week before being given the chance to speak to journalists at the Interfax Ukraine news agency, where they urged fellow officers to lay down their arms.
Washington Post World.
March 16, 4:10 America, New York. UN seeks $4.27 billion in appeal for war-ravaged Yemen. A United Nations appeal for Yemen is aiming at raising $4.27 billion to alleviate what it describes as the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with 161,000 people likely to experience famine there in 2022.
WorldCBSNews.com.
March 16, 4:09 America, New York. Ukraine's president to push for more help in address to U.S. Congress. Volodymyr Zelensky's appeal will come as Russia keeps pounding infrastructure Kyiv and many other cities with artillery strikes.
Mirror World News.
March 16, 4:01 America, New York. Russian general killed trying to storm Mariupol is 4th to die in Ukraine war. Major General Oleg Mityayev, commander of Russia's 150th Motorized Rifle Division, was killed as he tried to storm Mariupol, making him the 4th Russian commander to die, Ukraine has said. Fox World News.
March 16, 3:48 America, New York. Ukraine war upended China's plan to invade Taiwan, alleged FSB whistleblower says. Russia's invasion of Ukraine upended Chinese President Xi Jinping's timetable to invade Taiwan, according to documents purportedly written by a Russian intelligence analyst in one of Moscow's security agencies.
RT World News.
March 16, 3:47 America, New York. Pace votes to expel Russia. The Council of Europe made the decision over the Ukraine conflict. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe voted on Tuesday evening to expel Russia from the organization in the wake of the country's offensive in Ukraine. 216 of 219 delegates voted for the exclusion, with 3 abstaining.
World News. Breaking international news and headlines. Sky News.
March 16, 3:16 America, New York. Ukraine exploiting Russian forces. Lack of maneuver, and inflicting heavy losses, MOD says. Ukraine is adeptly exploiting Russian forces, lack of maneuver, and inflicting heavy losses, the UK Ministry of Defence has said. A view shows a residential building damaged by shelling, as Russia and AMP. Number 39's attack on Ukraine continues, in Kyiv, Ukraine, in this handout picture released March 16, 2022.
Mirror World News.
March 16, 3:08 America, New York. Nuclear war, steps away, warns RAF chief, while China, willing to help Russia. RAF's Air Marshal Edward Stringer CBE has said that a nuclear war may be just a few steps away, while at the same time there is fear that China could provide military support to Russia.
Time.
March 16, 3:07 America, New York. Why China's latest COVID-19 lockdowns could delay Amazon orders in the U.S. Orders placed with global e-commerce platforms like Amazon and Walmart may be delayed by virus lockdowns and restrictions in some of China's key manufacturing hubs, according to an industry body.
World News. Breaking international news and headlines. Sky News. March 16, 2:54 America, New York. Negotiations with Iran to free Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, going right to the wire, p.m. Negotiations with Iran to free Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe are going right up to the wire, the PM has said. A photo of Richard Ratcliffe and his wife Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, who has been jailed in Iran, on display at their home in North London.
New York Times World News.
March 16, 2:05 America, New York, your Wednesday briefing. A clandestine visit by European leaders to Ukraine. Emergency crews evacuated civilians from a residential building on Tuesday in Kyiv, Ukraine.
Fox World News.
March 16, 2:04 America, New York. Ukrainians in shelled cities like Mariupol facing inhuman suffering, official. A Ukrainian coordinator for the humanitarian corridors being set up to evacuate civilians in the besieged country said cities like Mariupol, which have come under harsh shelling from Russian forces, are on the verge of survival.
BBC News World.
March 16, 2:01 America, New York, Ukraine. The volunteers racing aid from the UK to the front line. Volunteers are racing medical supplies from the UK to the Ukrainian front line.
Washington Post World.
March 16, 2:00 America, New York. In Ukraine's Carpathian Mountains, tens of thousands find refuge from war. Far from Russian shelling, the displaced find a rare pocket of peace. RT World News.
March 16, 1:32 America, New York. Boris Johnson visits Saudi Arabia on quest for more oil. The Prime Minister proposed a new coalition of energy exporters and said the world must wean itself off Russian oil. Wall Street Journal World News.
March 16, 1:12 America, New York. North Korea weapons test appears to have failed, Seoul says. The Wednesday launch is Pyongyang's 10th weapons test of the year.
RT World News.
March 16, 0:24 America, New York. U.S. urges India to think twice before buying Russian oil. The White House press secretary asked New Delhi to consider its place in the history books, as it mulls Russia's offer for cheaper crude.